My hope is that we can talk about the kind of unofficial top 5 species that we work with here that I would recommend to people who are looking to keep an animal that they want to have a good experience with.
Subscribe.
Oh, hi. Welcome back to Just Turtles. I'm just here in the turtle basement on Worm Day. And Worm Day is a very special day. Worm Day is a special day for me, but it's also a special day for the turtles, as you might imagine. And providing sustenance and care, in this case sustenance, part of that care, to our animals is one of the most rewarding things that we can do as keepers. But the opportunity to provide good care and to keep the animals in our charge happy, we need to make sure we're doing something right before we even have those animals. And that is the actual decision to keep the animals that are right for you. Now, a lot of the species I have down here are species that really do well in an environment like this, a situation like this, and that's the reason why they're here. Some of that is through trial and error and also just learning, doing research ahead of time. And that's what I'm going to aim to try to help you with today. My hope is that we can talk about the kind of unofficial top 5 species that we work with here that I would recommend to people who are looking to keep an animal that they want to have a good experience with. Because let's face it, just because an animal's endangered or just because an animal is really pretty in a picture doesn't mean it's going to be something that you're going to be successful with keeping in a captive environment. So stay tuned, buckle up. We're going to go through the unofficial top 5 list of animals that I would recommend to you if you were asking what would give you the best experience as a keeper, and then therefore the best experience for the animal as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, let your friends know that we've got a good thing going here. And also let us know in the comments what species you would recommend to a new keeper who's looking to have a good experience. Remember, the goal is to set new keepers up with the information they need to have a good experience so that they don't end up with smelly green water in their living space and animals that they feel they need to go and dump out in the wild. We all need to be a part of the solution to that problem. Animals can't be released into the wild anymore because of careless or disinterested pet owners. It can't happen. So let's set them up with the right animals so that they'll be successful, the animals will be happy, and our environment will be free from released pets. Here I am in my office where the magic happens, so to speak, and we're trying something different this week, and I'm really excited to bring it to you. Today we're going to do the top 5 list of animals that we have here in our collection that we would recommend to keepers who are looking for a enjoyable experience with an animal. So without further ado, let's start the countdown. So first up, I want to talk to you about a favorite, and boy, woo, it stings the nostril. This is a Reeves turtle. It's a male Reeves turtle. And it's actually the largest Reeves turtle that I've ever seen. And these, along with their close relatives, the Kwangtung River or redneck pond turtle, Maremes nigricans, this species, the Reeves turtle, the Chinese keeled pond turtle or Reeves turtle here, Maremes reevesii, is a staple in captivity. In fact, even though this is an endangered species, there are 10 million of these produced in China every year in captivity. So seeing one that is like, the biggest male you've ever seen is a big deal. But the reason I say it stings the nostril is this male decided to greet us with his musk glands this morning. And the turtle smells really bad, quite skunky right now. And that's just something that happens with those turtles. So perhaps that's why we're starting with this turtle as maybe like our number 5 on the list, although it's not an official numbering that we're going by. It's a great species to keep. Now, females do get larger than males. They are very cold tolerant. So anyway, in terms of the size, males will generally be smaller than this one that you see here. And females can get quite large, although most of them top out at a size that's smaller than the huge females that we have here. We do have a small female that's about the size of this animal that does lay eggs. So they don't get massive. They are cold tolerant and they are super personable. But with any turtles, they're not communal. So you don't necessarily want to keep a bunch of them together. This is a species that really, if you have a small male, really can be just the best pet turtle to keep your family happy and to keep the turtle healthy and safe. Now, one last thing about this guy while I have him out here. This is a male, and the males turn black, jet black. Red-eared sliders are a species that's known for becoming melanistic, the males, when they attain a certain age. These guys turn black way sooner than red-eared sliders become melanistic. They actually do that in a young age, and all the males become black. Now, if this guy was to take his head out here of his shell, you'd be able to see that his head, his eyes, everything are just completely black. There's no markings on this turtle at all. He is just a black turtle through and through, which is pretty cool. I'm going to leave you alone. You're stinky. I'm going to change my gloves now because I want to make sure that I'm not cross-contaminating all the animals that we're going to see today. I'm also going to clean the table here. Stay tuned. So this is a baby Reeves turtle, and you see a lot of times they do start out really small. Now, this happens to be from that small female that I mentioned. Oh my gosh, this guy's all strong and pushing up against me. That's really cool. So this is actually a smaller Reeves turtle, but it did hatch a couple of months ago, and it's been growing and eating already. So you see, this is a small turtle. Interestingly, I was telling Kevin while we were setting up for this, and we were talking about how smelly that male Reeves turtle was right now, is that these guys actually, when they hatch, them and those Kwangtung River or redneck pond turtles, those close relatives, when they hatch in the incubator, you can smell it. You open the incubator and you smell that skunky smell the moment that they just hatched out, which is really interesting. So why do these turtles smell? They do that to try to tell predators, would-be predators, that they're not going to be a tasty meal, right? Smell is part of the experience of eating. If our food smells really bad, we're not likely to be to feel very hungry in that moment for whatever that thing is that's really stinky. So it's an evolutionary part of their biology that's there to help ward off predators. And it's different than a smelly turtle tank or that sort of thing. That's not the type of smell here. It really is a skunky smell. So it's similar to what a skunk does to evade predators, except they don't actually spray this in your face the way a skunk would. Next up is what I would unofficially refer to as number 4 on the list. Now, in terms of personality, right, how amazingly charismatic this species is, I would put this at the top of our list. But because it's a box turtle, and ultimately these box turtles really do best outdoors, and not everybody can accommodate that, we're going to put them right here at number 4. Unofficially. Shh. Earmuffs. Earmuffs. This is Cora flavomarginata evelinae. Okay. Anyway, this is the subspecies of Chinese box turtle that's actually from the Ryukyu Islands, which is equidistant between Taiwan and Japan. It's kind of like Japan's version of Hawaii. You've heard me talk about that before when I've talked about Geoemyda japonica, the cousin to the leaf turtle from Vietnam. So anyway, this turtle, technically, it is a Chinese box turtle or a yellow margin box turtle, but it's just a different subspecies. So these animals are tremendous. When you have a large group of them outside, they tend to do more than just creep, which is the word for a group of tortoises. They are more like a pack of piranha. And if you go in there with open-toed shoes, you best believe you are going to be bitten on your toes for sure. Now, if you were to throw, say, a small carcass into an enclosure, a habitat that had a lot of these turtles in it, you would come back to only maybe bones, maybe a pelt left. I actually did feed my group a rat at one point, a frozen thawed rat, like you would buy to feed a snake, and came back to just a tail and a pelt. So the bones were eaten, the eyeballs, the skull, the brains, everything. They come and eat everything. I'm sorry to make it graphic, but it's spooky season after all. So anywho, these guys are extremely intelligent, charismatic, as I said, and they really pick up on kind of what you're doing. If you have a few of these in your living space, or even if you're outside in their living space, for ones that live outside, they really are watching you and kind of seeing what you're doing. And people that do keep them outside will tell you that when you're out there, they do not only observe, most of them will actually come up and run towards you for food, which is a really interesting experience. They're smart. They're very, very smart animals. And they're very hardy. So I've had these guys survive outdoors here in Connecticut. I wouldn't recommend it because I think it's a little bit touch and go if you're in a really cold climate, but they are definitely survivors. They are definitely cold tolerant, and they eat everything. You can feed them. I use a food processor, and I might chop up 15, even 20 different food items and mix them together. And these guys absolutely relish all of it. There's not much that I give them to eat that they don't enjoy. You're just like me, buddy. I say buddy, this is a female, which all of the Ryukyu yellow margin box turtles, the Evelene, are females. Not all, but almost all of them. So she's no different. I know, you're so cute. When I'm talking about how these are mostly female, I mean in the United States. The population in the United States are mostly female. So the couple of people that have bred these have bred mostly females. So now we have a population. Now the good news with that, turtles are mostly TSD species. Most of the turtles are, which means they're temperature sex determined, which means the temperature of the incubation that the egg goes through determines the gender, the sex of that offspring, of that turtle as it hatches out. So this is a captive-bred female. So the egg was warmer. That's opposite from alligators, where males are produced at warmer temperatures. But in the turtles that are TSD, like you, the females generally are produced at warmer temperatures. There are some exceptions to that rule as well, but that's generally speaking. So you are probably a warm egg. What do you think? I know. So this is an absolutely precious little baby version of the animal that we were just looking at. This is probably an intergrade. This came from a female, just like that other female I was just showing you, which is a pure version of that Ryukyu version of the yellow margin box turtle or Chinese box turtle. And it's doing something that these guys always do. So even when they're hatching out of the eggs, a lot of times you'll see their legs kind of sticking out like they want to fly, which is really interesting and really cute. You see, this is just a beautiful, darling little animal, and they really are just miniature versions of the adults. So we like to keep them relatively aquatic, though. When they're young, they grow really fast and smooth that way. So generally, I keep them wet for the first year and a half, technically, because they hatch in the fall. So that second spring that they're alive is when I will move them to a terrestrial habitat generally. And by that time, they've already reached about 4 inches and are maybe mid-size versions of the adults. But these animals don't get huge. They do really, really well in captive situations and are just a joy to work with, even from a young age like this. I mean, look at that little inquisitive animal doing the little fly thing that they do, even when they're hatching out of the eggs. Thank you for being so wonderful. So now, here's what I would call unofficially the third, I guess the third animal that we're just going to feature right now. So it's unofficial, but anyway, this is the Japanese pond turtle. And this is one of my favorite species. I feel like I do this with people too. It's one of my best friends, one of my favorite people in the world. This is one of my favorite species. I love turtles. I'm sorry. It is what it is. This animal deserves all of our love and adoration and then some. Now, this is a large female, so this is the biggest they get. The males stay much, much, much smaller and are therefore great pets. Interestingly, in captivity, the majority of the animals you'll find are males. Now, I wasn't able to get any males in our pond today because it's really cold out, but we were able to get this female, and you see she's covered in this algae, which is on this paper towel now. So forgive me, but she just came right from the pond, her pond life, and she's looking really good. She looks amazing. She looks like she's ready for hibernation. It is the fall right now, so she'll be hibernating soon. This animal is another one that is extremely intelligent. You know, people talk all the time about North American wood turtles and how intelligent they are. These turtles are really a lot like North American wood turtles. Actually, when you see babies, a lot of times people confuse them for North American wood turtles, but they are a lot greener generally in appearance. You see that this female has a nice green head, and they also have this incredible black skin and the black plastron. The plastron is the word we use for the bottom of the shell, and the bridge is the part that holds it together. All of that is black on these turtles. But you see, they're tremendous. And the coolest thing about these guys is that they're very, very cold tolerant. So these have survived here in Connecticut under the ice, and they are a pond turtle. They're called the Japanese pond turtle. They're also called the Japanese stone turtle because when you see that carapace in the water, it does kind of resemble maybe like a moss-covered stone when you see it. There are some kind of oranges, light greens that kind of pop through in the coloration of these animals. But we do breed these here, and I'm excited to show you one of the babies right now. Good job, Mom. So here's the baby, and my goodness, how precious is this little thing as it pushes against my fingertips. I always wanted to breed these guys. I actually kept them for a long time and then had kind of felt like I had a little bit too much going on, and I decided to move the group that I had on to another member of the turtle room. So those animals still remained turtle room animals, and I regretted it from the moment I did it because they're great. You know, Maremes, the genus that these turtles are from, are really known for being quite aggressive with each other. So again, we're recommending these as a pet species, so that means keeping one only. However, this species by Maremes standards are actually very communal. They don't beat each other up as much as pretty much every other species within their genus does. So that's pretty cool. And they do pretty well in terms of their fecundity, right? They're how prolific they are in captivity. They do lay eggs that are a little bit softer than the other members of the genus as well, and they incubate fast. So we have a couple North American species like the bog turtle and the spotted turtle that hatch very fast, like 45, 55 days, sometimes as fast as that. I've actually hatched these at 45 days as well. So they hatch very fast as well. They do lay pretty small eggs, and they are soft-shelled eggs. But you see, even this little baby, it's got that green coloration, and it's got the black belly and the black skin. So a perfect little miniature version of the adult, and they are just an absolute joy to work with. So I started off this top 5 list talking about Reeves turtles and how the males can be really small. And then we talked about our unofficial number 3, which is the Japanese pond turtle. And we talked about how those males can be very small and how that means that they can be great pets because you get that one small male and it's a really manageable size. Well, when we talk about small turtles, virtually everything else pales in comparison to the next turtle that I'm going to show you. This is a proven, meaning that this animal in captivity has produced young. And not only has it produced young, but this is a female. Now, for this species, the stinkpot musk turtle, females are larger. So adult males are actually smaller than this. And I know you're seeing this right now and you say, wow, that's a really small turtle. You can't even fathom how small this adult turtle is until you actually see them in person. It is absolutely incredible. And what's interesting, this turtle right now is about 48, 50 grams, but this turtle has the world record as the smallest turtle to ever lay an egg that we know of anywhere in the world. At the time, she was 32 grams. I have a radiograph image of this turtle when she was gravid with an egg inside of her at 32 grams. Some of the babies that we hatch here weigh more than 32 grams. This is a tiny, tiny turtle. Now, stinkpot musk turtles in general are small, but there are some that get bigger, upwards of 5 inches with big macrocephalic heads, and they lay many eggs. They might lay 4 eggs in a clutch. Well, these little ones from a specific locality only lay 1 egg at a time. So it's really cool to kind of geek out about these super duper small ones, which if you're not looking at the actual taxon, the actual species or subspecies, because this is just a locality of an already small turtle that gets really, really, really small as an adult, it still is a small animal, but nonetheless, but something that we would recommend you keeping for sure if you were looking for a good animal. The problem with these guys is something I mentioned in that that video where we were at the pet store in the UK, Swallow Aquatics, sorry. where I know Kevin, I can just see Kevin smile when I said the name. It's an odd name for from an American's perspective. It's an odd name for a pet store for sure. But the issue with these guys is they're very hardy, including cold hardy. So that means, if these were a popular pet turtle, it is possible that they can get released into the wild. The other issue is because this is so small, it can't be sold as a pet. We have a law in the US that turtles under 4 inches can't officially be sold as pets. Now, there are, though, stink pots that reach more than 4 inches. So when I say that stink pots are a good thing for pets, a 4 inch stink pot is a good option for you as a pet. But they shouldn't be crammed together. You shouldn't have a whole bunch of them. Again, when I say pet, I'm talking about a single turtle that's kept in an appropriate habitat and is something that your family can enjoy. What an absolute beauty. Good job, Mom. So here's the little adult, and here's the little tiny baby. Look how small that thing is. We'll get some B-roll shots here of me just balancing it on my thumb. And what's funny is it was just trying to bite me as well. So you see why they only lay one egg, because really, in comparison to the adult, this is actually still a really large baby. But in terms of, compared to other baby turtles, this is as small as you'll ever see. So these are hatching out at less than 2 grams. We don't get many of these at all because the fecundity rate for these guys is so low. They're only laying 1 egg at a time. So when you get that egg, you hope it's fertile. We've had a really good run with them in terms of fertility, but we don't get eggs very often. And when we do get clutches, again, it's just that 1 egg. So really cool to see. This is a species that has a large range. I found them in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Texas. Where else? I'm probably forgetting somewhere else that we found. Oh, I've found them in Florida as well. And they have a huge range, and there's a lot of variation across the range. But again, there's also these really small ones, which I just find incredibly interesting. Look at you. All right, so now it's time for the #1 unofficial best pet turtle that I would recommend from the animals that we care for here at my turtle farm, for lack of a better term. And this huge female here is a striped mud turtle. A lot of people in the trade, in the turtle keeping hobby, which I don't like to use that word, but it's true, that's what it is, will call these 3-striped mud turtles or 3-lined mud turtles, but the actual name is just the striped mud turtle. Now you'll notice this female doesn't have any stripes. She's from an area where the turtles sometimes will lose their stripes, and we see that both with tan or lightly colored animals like this, and also some of the bigger, darker black striped mud turtles as well. The scientific name for these is Kinosternon baurii, or baurii, because there's 2 eyes at the end. And this is a female that has produced many, many young for us. I'm just going to palpate her right now. When we say palpating for eggs, I'm checking for eggs. This is not the time of year for them to have eggs, but sometimes they do lay eggs at odd parts of the year. And for us, this is an animal that the locality would be in Florida, but this is an animal that lives in our greenhouse. And that kind of mimics Florida. Sometimes I even think it mimics Arizona a little bit because it's kind of dry and plants don't do as well down there as they would do in Florida. But basically, there is still warm sun that comes in even in the colder months, so they can come out and bask and things like that. And they're more active year round. So this animal, this species, is one that I would recommend because they are absolutely charismatic, comical, fun to watch. And if you're keeping just one animal that doesn't need to be with a bunch of other animals, they eat well and just kind of adapt well to captive situations. Even if they are born in captivity, they still are moving from one situation to another. That takes adaptation and for them to kind of acclimate to the new keeper. So that's a really good thing as well. With these, I just have confidence. So when I hatch babies and I send them out to a new home, most of the time I just give those away. I'm very confident that they're going to do well and that the person who keeps them is going to have a really good experience. And that's the most important thing that we're looking at here, is what's going to give people the best experience. What's going to help them not have that nasty, sludgy green water that stinks up their living space. what's going to help them not feel like they have nowhere else to turn and go and take their animals and dump them into a local waterway. So now I'm here with the baby from the striped mud turtle group, and we do hatch quite a few of these. They are angry little ones. Actually, my wife reached out to me one time and she's like, "Why did you give me that turtle? It bit somebody," when she took the turtles to do an educational talk at our daughter's school. And I said, "Well, which turtle?" And I said, "Why were they even holding them?" So we had talked and we weren't going to let the kids hold any of the turtles. Well, she let one of the kids hold one of the striped mud turtle babies. She thought, it's just a baby turtle. What's the worst that can happen? And she's right. There's not much that can happen. This turtle isn't going to hurt anyone. But you see it's here right now with its mouth open. And it definitely does want to fight me. And they do bite. But it won't hurt. But it might startle a child who's not expecting to be bit by the animal that's brought to the educational display at their school. So things happen. People ask, will it bite? A lot of times animals may not bite, but don't ever tell them that they won't. If it has a mouth, it can bite. And these guys certainly will. They're little monsters when this species, when they're actually hatching out of the egg, they will try to bite you while their back end is still in the egg. They haven't actually hatched out yet. They will actually actively try to bite you. They are little killers from the beginning, but that's what makes them so comical and so entertaining to watch as they continue to grow. And as they grow, sometimes really interesting things happen. So the ones that we work with here are extremely colorful. They are a brighter color. You'll notice that when they're babies, they're kind of more black. This is a juvenile that's only a year old. This hatched last year. And you see the coloration in this animal is absolutely breathtaking. Now, a couple of things impact that. First of all, genetics. Where did it come from? Is it from an area that has a substrate that's already kind of sandy and that yellow or tan color itself? And also, so that's the nature part. And then also it's nurture, because if you keep these animals in a very light colored tub, that sort of thing, that can also impact the color that they are as they grow. They will adapt to be a color that kind of blends in more with their environment. How interesting is that? Isn't that cool? Just when you thought you can't love an awesome turtle anymore, something like that happens. So look at this animal and how absolutely breathtaking it is. I can't think of a more beautiful animal that is just like normal. This is not a morph. This is a normal animal that looks that beautiful. And when I say morph, I mean genetic mutation. Animals are bred for that recessive gene to come out. This is just a normal, but it's a really pretty one. Wow, that was a lot of fun showing you all those animals that I would recommend to you as great animals to keep in captivity as pets, so to speak. Now I'm going to give you some bonus content. These are species that I think are as enjoyable to interact with and to keep as anything, but there's some species that you may not have had the opportunity to interact with. There's species that are really rare, not only in the wild, but also in captivity, so you don't see them very often. And there's species that for years I wanted to work with and wasn't able to until that opportunity finally came after years of dedication, kind of proving myself, and also sometimes spending some money to get them, unfortunately, if I'm just being honest with you. So the first that I'd like to highlight for you is the spider tortoise. If you watch the channel, you know that I keep spider tortoises, and I love spider tortoises. Interestingly, this is the species that kind of made me someone who was interested in conservation, because we had these animals, we had the opportunity to work with these animals. It was kind of that first project after my wife started giving me a hard time. You talk about how rare turtles are and how that matters, but what are you actually doing? And this was the first one when I felt like I was taking a turn into caring about conservation. Now I realize that breeding animals is a very small part of the larger picture, but it's still something that we love to do because we think it's really important. So these are spider tortoises from Madagascar. And in my list of 5 Colonians, turtles that I would recommend, I didn't recommend any tortoises. So there are really good tortoises to keep. Russian tortoises, Greek tortoises, or Mediterranean spur-thighed tortoises are great to keep, and I would recommend those. But I will tell you, has never been a tortoise that I've enjoyed more than spider tortoises. They are extremely docile and interesting to watch. They do go to sleep for 6 months out of the year. I actually think that's a positive. It gives the keeper a break while they just rest, and they are really communal with each other. They don't fight at all, which is rare. Most tortoises will fight. So when I recommend a Mediterranean spur-thighed tortoise to you, or Greek tortoise, otherwise known as a Greek tortoise, those are animals that scare new keepers quite often because you see them start banging together and all that sort of thing. But we do breed these here. You see this is an adult male. His name is Nugget. We've had him for 14 years, since he was a little hatchling like this, and now this is a baby that may very well be Nugget's offspring, but there are a couple males in the group, so we're not sure if that's one of his babies. How cool are these? This time of year in the fall, they're just getting ready to go to sleep for their 6-month slumber, but the females are still laying eggs. So even though they're really docile and kind of not doing much, immobile at the moment, the females are still finishing up laying season. I think that's so interesting. All right, so spoiler alert, the next two species that I'm going to show you are species that we've highlighted recently. Actually, the last time we talked about turtles in my collection, these two species were really the highlight of the video, or at least two of the highlights of the video. So forgive me. I would, however, be remiss if I didn't highlight them if I'm doing a video about the best turtles to keep. So if you are a reptile lover, how can you get any better than Geoemyda spangleri, the Vietnamese black-breasted leaf turtle? They live in Vietnam and China mostly. There may also be a smaller population in Laos, Hainan Island, which is part of China. And they are just terrific. This is an animal that I actually raised from a baby here in my right hand on your left. And then this is a new baby here in my left hand on your right. And they are just amazing. They're known for their inquisitive nature, their big, curious owl eyes. And they do this amazing thing where, like a chameleon, they can have their eyes move independently from one another. They can look at the ground to see if there's any food while looking above to see if there are any predators. And we see this behavior all the time. But then they get this kind of fixed accommodation with their eyes where they look down and both eyes focus in on that worm when it's time to kill. And it is absolutely amazing to see these guys. It is a good thing that these turtles were made as small as they are, because if this was a 4-foot turtle, humans might be extinct. Just saying, these things are absolute killers. It's a good thing they're small. But you see, they're very beautiful, right? Why do they get their name? Black-breasted leaf turtles. Well, look at that black belly. And then also, they're shaped like a leaf. And I just ripped my glove. That's what happens when a turtle's shaped like a leaf and it has a nice hard shell. You rip your glove. Thanks for coming to visit with us. So lastly, this species is my absolute favorite to keep. This is McCord's box turtle. If you watch the channel, you already know how I feel about these guys. They are the most inquisitive, and I've never seen a species that communicates with each other the way that this species does. You see that kind of head bob, right? You see them in the intro to our channel that asks you to subscribe. And by the way, please do, if you haven't, tell your friends. That's them. That's not just a funny clip that came out. That is what it looks like every single day to observe these animals doing what they do. Now, males don't get very huge. Females do tend to get a little bigger. This is a large male. And then this is a baby. This may be the one that we had to rescue out of the wall in my wife's bathroom. But it may not be as well. I'm not sure. They grow really fast, just like the flavos, which the Chinese box turtle or yellow margin box turtle that these look just like. But these are flatter generally and a little more streamlined. They have a thinner head and thinner limbs and are a little bit more aquatic than flavos as well. But just like them, when they're young, we raise them in water and they grow fast. And they grow into these really communicative, inquisitive turtles that they are. So awesome to be here with these guys as always, and awesome to share them with you. Let us know what your favorite turtles are, what your favorite turtles to keep are in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let's get this conversation going, because the more that we talk about this, the more that new keepers will feel confident with the decisions that they make to bring a new shelled member of their family into their home. Like I mentioned, you see turtles together in a basking log, that doesn't mean they like each other. That means they're there for a resource, just like two people sitting next to each other at a bus stop. Doesn't mean they like each other. So your turtles do not need a friend. Turtles do best often when they are kept separately. And although this is an endangered species, they are commonly bred in captivity. So these animals will not go towards conserving or preserving the species in the wild, but they are really great pet turtles. So all those males that are produced are there to provide a really good experience to families, most importantly, so that they don't end up getting dumped in local waterways like those large sliders.
Hit subscribe, join the crew. Just Turtles. There's always something new.
It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top, cruising the streets. I got a real pretty little thing that's waiting for me. Oh, hey, I thought I heard someone back here. Wait a minute. If you're here, then that means you just watched that video all the way till the end, which is pretty amazing considering our videos tend to be a little bit long and I'm also long-winded. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for making the world a better place for turtles and tortoises, because it really means a lot. Oh, that was weird. Anyway, since you watched this long, if you haven't already subscribed, you should consider doing so via this link here in the corner of the screen. Also, if you like this video, I know you'll love our other videos, which you can access here in the other corner of the screen. Like the drip that you saw during the video? I know you did. And yes, I know I'm old. You can access that via this QR code here. And lastly, my Amazon author page, because I am a turtle author. I've written several books about turtles. You can access via this QR code.